The University of Guam will be holding a public hearing on a proposed 10% tuition rate increase for the upcoming spring 2013 semester next week. Raising tuition by 10% would generate about $1.4 million in funding for the university. That's also the dollar amount that Bill 516 would have given to the university, but Governor Calvo vetoed the measure, saying it would have placed GovGuam at risk of being held in contempt of a district court order to use that money to improve mental health services. The governor's spokesman, Troy Torres, today, however, said that money has been appropriated to cover the shortfall.
Well, BBMR last week released $1.4 million of the appropriation to UOG to avert the tuition increase. It was very specific for that, and that followed a meeting with UOG officials and the fiscal team where they asked for the $1.4 million release and only the $1.4 million release to avert the tuition increase.
But Speaker Judy Wonpat and University of Guam Acting President Dr. Helen Whippy both say that the money was back payment for fiscal year 2012 and won't help cover expenses for the spring 2013 semester.
Public Law 31-126 appropriated that money for tuition for FY12. So that was for FY12 spring and fall tuition. The extra that we needed, so we didn't have to raise tuition last year. And we thank the legislature and the governor for that. It's certainly needed, but that was FY12 money. And going ahead, we have FY13.
Speaker Wonpat, meanwhile, says she thinks she's found a solution to save students from a tuition increase next semester. That funding would come from a 2001 A-Series bond. $2.9 million of that bond was targeted for the Uog High School expansion project, which Wonpat says there is other funding for.
Now, fortunately, with the leaseback program that we're going to do, the governor authorized, of course, for them to move forward now because it won't affect the debt ceiling. However, they would not be able to complete the project until about 2014. Then the money is available, but we're only looking at 1 year, this one window of opportunity then to use the $2.9 million then to help avert, of course, the tuition increase.
Even if an alternative funding source is identified again this time, the university would still be in the same situation in future semesters and would have to find funding again.
The cost of education continues to go up, as do all of our expenditures. We only have 3 sources of funding for the university: local appropriations, grants and contracts, and tuition. Now, the grants and contracts are dedicated for specific purposes, so that's not going to help us. So all that's left is local appropriation or tuition increases.
Dr. Whippy says the university doesn't want to increase tuition because students are already paying almost 50% of the total cost of educating them, which she says is very close to the tipping point where the social good and the individual good are balanced. Anything above 50%, she says, is difficult for students.
We hope there's a sustainable solution. We're not sure what it is, but we're looking both internally and externally for solutions. We're looking at restructuring the way we do things, possibly narrowing our options in courses or coursework, but most of our funding is spent on having people, faculty, that make the difference with our students.
The public hearing on the proposed tuition rate change will be held at 2 p.m. next Thursday in the class lecture hall. Betsy Brown, PNC News.